Is Matt Williamson. We are live from the Indiana Convention Center here in
Good stuff.
Indianapolis. And Matt, all week long, this week, we're giving Steelers Nation even more ways to consume the SNR Drive content at the annual NFL Scouting Combine. You can listen to us live, hear us each day from 2 to 4
absolutely.
through Friday on SNR. You can also get our programs, as usual, on demand where you get all your favorite podcasts. In addition, just this week, you can also watch and listen to our shows here on Radio Row each night during the Combine on Steelers on the Steelers YouTube channel. That's live on SNR through our podcast and the Steelers YouTube page. Big stuff.
Big stuff. We're moving on up, huh?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, I'm really enjoying Indianapolis already. There's so much going on, lots of buzz. We haven't even seen testing and all that kind of heights and weights and all that kind of stuff either yet.
I'll tell you this, though. So I was walking from the media room over here to where we do the shows here on Radio Row, and there was a guy working on the escalator over there.
Yeah, I noticed. I'd use the steps.
Okay. One of the guys, as I was walking by, says, "Hey, are you Dale Lolley?"
Really?
He said, "I listen to you and Matt on SNR every day."
Okay.
How about that?
All right.
Even in Indianapolis, people listen to SNR. We are wide-reaching. They listen to the drive.
Good stuff. No,
Absolutely.
I didn't get that recognition. I was just saying.
Maybe he wasn't there.
But
if he's listening right now, we appreciate you. As I told him, we appreciate you listening. We appreciate all of our listeners out there making the drive.
Buzzing with NFL people right now.
Oh, without a doubt.
Awesome.
If you're in the NFL, this is where you're at this week.
No doubt.
Unless you're Sean McVay.
I guess he didn't.
I think I don't understand
it. I know that they've changed things around. They don't have as much access, all that stuff. But are these days that important in L.A. or whatever that that they're going to reconstruct the zone running game or whatever? I mean, that's what I don't quite understand. What is so important to stay home for?
So for me, if I'm in this situation, I want to sit down with these guys. The medical stuff's all going to take care of the off-field, on-field stuff when they're running and testing and all that stuff. That's all well and good. I want the 15 minutes of interview time with these guys. As Omar Khan said earlier today, the Steelers GM, at least get an opportunity to start the process of getting to know these guys a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just being here in general, I think is beneficial. You're going to get buzz. You're going to be around players. You're going to be around other coaches. I mean, maybe they don't want you fraternizing with other teams or trying to go get a job on the side or whatever. I mean, I get some of that, or, hey, stay out of the bars. Right? But still, even in those meetings, there's not a lot of people allowed in those 15-minute meetings. Right. I mean, it's a small room.
I would assume Sean McVay would be one.
I would think the head coach is, and if you're the running back coach and it's a running back, you're in there.
Yeah.
And I do think the interviews are a little overrated. I've sat in 2 or 3 in my Browns time because it's 15 minutes and it goes quick. And these kids kind of know the answers they're going to give you. But still, we were talking about on the car ride down, like, you don't even have – and they're going to be videoed.
Yeah.
So you don't have the time, though. You don't have the opportunity as a coach or whoever to say, oh, I would have said this here.
Yeah.
You
How about a follow-up?
You're just watching a movie.
It goes – so for a while back in this is 10, 15 years ago, I was working I did some stuff with Washington and Jefferson College as their – advisor for their student newspaper.
Okay.
And a lot of the students at that time wanted to email their questions to the people that they were interviewing.
Okay.
And I said, no, you need to sit down with somebody.
Prepare and I'm going to delete this and write it again.
When I'm sitting across a desk from somebody or however it may be, however the interview's taking place, I know when my BS meter goes off.
Oh, yeah. Right. Like
if I've got a follow-up question to something that they said, I can ask it right away as opposed to sending it and then another email. So there's just
a tempo to it.
That interaction that you have with somebody where you get to know them a little bit.
A little bit at least.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Again,
not,
only
it's not so
15 minutes,
impersonal.
But right. You might make a joke or make you smile or
and
whatever.
I get it. So if you're McVay, well, we only have this many picks this year. I don't want to waste that time on that many picks. But free agency happens.
I mean, all the undrafted
4
guys.
years from now, a bunch of these guys are going to be available.
And they still make the Rams specifically make a lot of picks, just not in the first round.
Right.
They litter their roster with cheap mid-round guys to afford all their high-priced guys. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't understand not being here. Is there something at home that's so important? And don't tell me it's an expense thing. You can't afford a plane ticket.
Yeah.
I mean,
spared no expense. It's like this is like Jurassic Park. We spared no expense. That's just the way it is.
But that's one of the new ways people are looking at this is, do I really have to be there? I'm going to get the heights and weights. I can watch all the drills. Fine. But I think there's more to it than that.
It's that interaction, that in-prospect interaction. Matt, we talked about this on the drive. We talked about a lot of stuff on the drive out yesterday. So I've got a theory. I've come to the conclusion, for me, sitting here on, what is this, February
27, I think?
28. February 28, 2023. If I am drafting for the Steelers,
right,
I want Brian Breesy, the defensive lineman out of Clemson. I want Brian Branch, the safety out of Alabama, or I want Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback out of Oregon, at pick 17.
Okay.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. Again, February 28th, much is going to change.
Absolutely.
The corner group, I think, is going to sort itself out dramatically because there's
I think you and I are in the same wavelength here that Gonzalez is going to end up being the top cornerback, and he's probably not going to be available.
Yeah, I mean, he has great track background.
Takes the
built
ball
for
away.
This. He's big. Yeah. He's going to look good. He's muscular. So I think he's going to be my cornerback one when it's all said and done, and in the mix as well. And right now, okay, let me ask you a quick question. Would you trade 17 for Gonzalez right this second?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
I would trade 17 right now for any of those guys.
Okay,
any of those three players.
I would for Gonzalez. I'd be happy with the other two. Yeah. We're just going to call them the killer bees.
Breesy's going to – the medicals are going to have to check out and all that stuff.
Right.
But watching his tape –
it's great.
I see a young Cam Hayward. I'm like, okay, I'll take that.
And I'll take that. Right. Yeah. He would fit in very well personality-wise, learning from Cam, schematically. I like the Cam Hayward comparison because he has those big, heavy hands. He has the bull rush. He'll run right through you. He can line up over a tackle anywhere from there to nose. He's athletic. He's a five-star recruit.
A 6'5", 300-pounder who is that athletic. That's
Cam.
Power.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't dislike the fit at all. I do think when it's said and done, Porter, Witherspoon, the Illinois kid, and Gonzalez will be the first three corners off the board and gone at 17.
I believe that as well.
I also think, I know we haven't talked offense, but I think the top three tackles, Jones, Ohio State dude, and Skoronski also will be gone.
See, here's the thing. Here's where I differ from most of Steelers Nation. I'm not interested in those guys.
I didn't think you are.
Because I don't think any of them are game-changing enough guys that I have to say, that's my starting left tackle for the next 15 or 10 years. I don't think any of them are that dynamic.
I don't either. I don't think they're great prospects, but I think if you can get a cost-controlled starting tackle for 5 years, and maybe he's not even a starter right away. He may not beat out Dan Moore or whomever.
Well, then I'm definitely not interested in him.
Well, he might. I mean, you don't know that. I mean, I don't think you anoint him before he comes to camp Pouncey or one of those.
But if you take so if it is a Pouncey type player, if it's a David DeCastro type player who is clearly the number one guy at his position, I just don't see this tackle.
I don't love the tackle class.
I don't think it's that good. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I think those guys will be starters.
There's not an Ogden,
but they're not dynamic.
Right.
They're not Orlando Pace.
No, they're not. But you're picking 17. I mean, you'd never have a chance at any of those guys anyways. I just think tackles are so expensive, so hard to acquire. You have these three picks on day two that if a tackle can be cost-controlled for 5 years, I'm very interested at 17. I also don't think those three will be there. And there's not a fourth that I want.
Right.
So
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
But if I can get, again, the number one safety in Branch, or
who's more than a safety?
Who's more than
right?
Brian Branch, to me, watching his tape, is a bigger version of Mike Hilton, who can also play safety for you.
Yeah, right.
Like Hilton was just a slot.
Right. I mean, you don't want Hilton to
Brian Branch can play in the slot. He's an outstanding blitzer. He's going to give you great run support. He can also play some cornerback for you, and he can also go back and play deep safety.
Right. And I know we have some new listeners because we've talked about this a lot, but it's such a matchup problem for opposing offenses to have him and Minka on the field.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can
Who's going where?
Right. I mean, they can rock and roll back and forth time and time again. One of them could play single high. They both could play, two deep. One of them could play man. One of them could blitz. Both of them could blitz. Just the possibilities are endless. And I don't even
care. If the Steelers would re-sign Terrell Edmunds,
yeah,
I would still take Brian Branch.
Just because he's the best defensive back on the board, basically. Yeah. And that's same with KZ. Even if they sign both of them, I might, because he's still your best slot guy.
Right, that's the thing. Yeah. He would then, assuming that you sign Cam Sutton, and Omar Khan saying today that the Steelers have started discussions on that. Okay, well now you can play Cam Sutton on the outside. You don't have to move him to the slot.
Right. I mean, the beauty of Sutton is you can do both. But if you draft one in day 2. I mean, again, if I'm drafting Branch in the first round, that doesn't mean I'm not drafting another outside corner in a deep corner class. I mean, I don't think that's done. You can never have too many of those.
Because he's actually a safety who happens to play the slot.
Mm-hmm. Which is how the league's going, by the way.
Really, yeah, it really is. It's amazing how many, when you look at safety prospects, how many of them actually line up in the slot at the college level.
It's very high level. I mean, even like Kyle Hamilton played the slot for the Ravens this year at 6'4", 210 or 215 or whatever he is.
People might say, well, what's the reason for that, Matt? Well, it's because you got to stop the run.
You got to stop the run.
If you've got a 5'9" slot corner,
right,
you're going to run at him a lot.
They are. And pull guards at them and run fullbacks at you.
And by the way, look at all the guys who are now playing in the slot in the NFL.
That's where I was going.
You got a lot of tight ends. You got a lot of bigger receivers.
Like Welker and those guys were tremendous, but people are getting away from the Welker types because they don't block, and they're not. A lot of those guys aren't deep threats. I mean, people want explosive plays. A lot of those guys aren't straight line fast. And the other thing is, Evan Ingram, Kelsey, those guys are wide receivers.
Right.
I mean, you could call them a TE or whatever, put them in the tight end room. But they're big slots is what they are. I mean, that was kind of the Claypool experiment. Big slots are what people want. Bigger, faster, stronger. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world.
And so a little guy, especially as you get farther down the field, they have shorter arms.
Sure.
They may not run as well, but if you get a guy who's a 6'1" slot, who's got some size to him, he can match up on those tight ends. He can
He can get Derrick Henry on the ground, and
and
Mixon or Chubb or Dobbins or you guys who play against power teams. So I mean, growing up, you were a strong safety or you were a free safety,
right?
Now there's really a third category, and that's just like a nickel safety,
it's all
nickel
about the
defender.
blurred lines.
Exactly. I mean, the offense is throwing. Who do you deal with? Who deals with McCaffrey? Who deals with scat backs, let alone tight ends? Sometimes. So many times, I'm sure you've heard this. How could they possibly get a linebacker stuck on Keenan Allen? Well, because they didn't have Brian Branch.
Right.
I mean, somebody, the linebacker has to do something this game.
Somebody's got to move out there.
Yep. The other thing about Branch, which we've mentioned in the past, but Saban is well known at Bama as a D-back guy, and he always has one dude.
Among other things.
But he always has one dude on the defense that's his eyes and ears, his quarterback. It's always a defensive back. It was Minka. It was Minka, and it's Branch. So I've heard some people say, I'm not sure if Branch will test extremely well.
I don't care.
I don't care, as long as it's not horrible.
Right.
I mean, as long as it's not horrible.
Because I've watched the tape, and I've seen him make plays all over the place.
Yeah, he's going to
in the backfield, on the edge,
yep.
in the down the field.
The thing I'm fighting you a little on is I don't know on February 27th or 8th or whatever we said it was, I would accept Branch or Breesy right now. If it gets to that, and I think it will, because I think the three corners will be gone, the three tackles will be gone.
Well, see, that's what I'm assuming.
Right. And a bunch of quarterbacks are going to be gone. You hope Bijan's gone. That I'd be very happy with that.
Yeah.
So.
And here's the thing. So the way this draft sets up, because you have picks 17, 32, and 49, you can then, so let's say, for example, you take Breesy in the first round.
Yeah.
So now you scratch.
I think you're done with D-line.
Now you're done with D-line in those other rounds. If you get to round 7 and there's one there that you like.
And there's a nose.
You take it. The way this draft sets up, you can then take a cornerback at 32 because
there will be
one there that you're going to like, and a safety at 49.
I don't know that safety's a need. Even if I assume they're going to sign one of those two safeties before the draft.
But I wouldn't mind having a young guy in the system. Again, let's say you don't, you're not getting KZ back or something like that.
Yeah.
And let's face, as much as I like KZ, he's 30.
He's 30, right? And Big Nickel became a foundation for them,
right?
And as it should be, because that also gives you a nickel presence, whether that's Sutton or whomever, or Minka or Branch or whomever. But I also think that there will be plenty of attractive offensive tackles at 32.
Right?
Jones or Tennessee or Oklahoma. I mean, there's a handful of those.
I don't know that offensive line is going to be. All these mock drafts and things that we see out there are assuming the Steelers are looking at an offensive lineman with some of those early picks. I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Oh, I think there's a lot of mistakes being made on mocks just saying Torrance is the best offensive lineman out there. He's going to Steelers at 17. Or X is the best offensive lineman on the board, I'm putting him there because I don't know a lot about Chooks and Daniel, because I don't study them like Steeler people do. But I think you're crazy almost no matter what your O-line looks like to turn your nose up at a cheap tackle. I mean, tackles are just hard to find, and I'm worried about – I'm not worried about starting 5. I'm worried about number 6 and 7 on the depth chart.
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah.
But are you worried about that enough to use the 32nd pick in the draft on it when you have needs on defense? You have needs on defense.
Yeah, but some of those will be gone by then too.
Some of them will be, but you need to get younger on defense.
You do have to get younger. I mean, I
you're
think it's going to be a
long in
defensive
two.
draft.
Your defensive line is extremely old.
Of the guys you count on, right?
Of the guys that you count on.
Right,
the guys that you look at and say, these are going to be our foundational guys. They're getting up in age.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get younger there and infuse talent. Linebacker
is a big problem right now.
Is a big problem right,
right,
now. Absolutely. At the cornerback position, again, you need to get
You have questions
younger.
more than answers.
We love Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minkah Fitzpatrick's now 26. Wouldn't it be nice to stagger that a little bit?
Oh, of course.
Have a 26. Have Minkah working with a 21-year-old who now they're you've got your expensive safety. Let's face it, Minkah's one of the highest paid safeties in the league, and now you add a cheaper guy next to him,
right?
Who you've got a cost control
successor and all those things.
Right.
You keep playing the same style defense,
yeah,
even after Minkah's gone. All those type of things. No,
I think that's the way the roster is set up right now.
Yes,
the roster is not set up because all those the offensive line that they had on the field last year were all 24, 25-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
It's not set up to start adding more younger guys to that group who are you're going to be counting on to start.
I hear you. I also just think, though, you have 3, maybe even 4 premium picks. If one of them could be a tackle, which is such a hard problem
I'm not going to turn my nose up at it.
Right.
But if I'm measuring apples to oranges here, I'm going to lean towards a defensive guy.
I understand that
when I'm breaking ties.
I get that, and I keep saying cost controlled left tackle. I mean,
that's what they have with Dan Moore.
That's what I say. The defense is expensive right now. You know, so much of your percentage of your cap is on defense, and you can alleviate that as these guys, Cam Hayward and et cetera, get old and aren't going to be playing football much longer. But I keep coming back to the O-line because tackles are so hard to find, and by no means are you going to get lucky, fortunate enough to only have 30, 45 snaps missed by your starting 5.
I get it, but I mean they were able to go out and acquire cheap backups this year. Guys who had 50 games of NFL experience under their belt as your backups, and you didn't need them.
You didn't need them.
Which is fine. It's not going to happen again.
Thank God in some
But
ways,
if you have to plug one of those guys in and he has 50 games experience, you're okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to take a first or second or third round draft pick and plug him in, well,
who knows?
You're going to struggle with with rookie problems.
No, I know.
Which is what hurt them in 2020 or 2021.
They
dealt with young guy growing pains.
Yeah. No, and it's not a plug-and-play position.
It's not.
Especially for any of these guys that are in this draft.
I honestly think right now they're set up to win in 2023.
Okay. I don't disagree.
More so. I think they're gonna obviously win more games in 2023 than they did in 2022.
This is a small percentage. I mean, this is 5, 6, 7 snaps a game, but I also wouldn't mind a 6 offensive line set more often, too. We saw very little of that. With all respect to Gentry, who's a free agent, what he brings to the receiving game, I would rather have DeJuan Jones out there. you know what I mean?
I hear you.
Crushing people.
Like I said, I'm not going to turn my nose up at an offensive lineman, but if we're measuring two guys who have the same grade, I'm taking the defensive player.
Okay. I think that's fair. Tackle's the only exception to that to me, just because I think that's the second hardest position to find, and I don't ever want to be shopping for one.
Yeah.
You know
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. We're going to take a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio. We are live in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. The Steeler fans, the Steelers media platforms are loaded with great Steelers Combine content all week long. Visit Steelers.com and the Steelers official mobile app to hear live and on-demand SNR content, audio content, exclusive one-on-one video interviews with key decision makers, and daily editorial coverage by moi. The team also has great throwback combine workout highlights on current Steelers for you to check out. That's all this week on the Steelers media platforms. We'll be back with more live from the combine right after this. All week long you can listen to live coverage from the NFL Scouting Combine on Steelers Nation Radio. We'll be live on Radio Row from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. all week long. If you can't catch us live, you can find all of our daily audio programming from Indianapolis, including programs in their entirety and interview carve-outs on demand in the audio section of the Steelers official mobile app. That's all week long. SNR at the Scouting Combine. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley, and, this is what we do.
Heck yeah, all the time.
We talk NFL all the time. And, Matt, we were talking about some positions here of perhaps need for the Steelers. One thing I wanted to talk a little bit about what Omar Khan had to say earlier today. He mentioned that he was asked, as GMs all across the league are, about what's the strength of this draft. And he said, I think all the positions are reasonably deep in this one. If you go into this draft with a need or a want, you can fill it in this draft because I do believe there's good depth in this draft.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think it's a particularly top-heavy draft.
Yeah. There's there's like the stars aren't as many.
Right.
But man, you can go 140 picks deep with guys that are like, ooh, I'll take that guy.
Yeah, you're seeing there's some COVID ramifications too. A lot of these guys went back to school for an extra year, so you get more of a crop. There's different ages coming out. There's the guys that only did a couple of years and are 20, and then there's some dudes that are 25. So there is a little bit more variety that way. I do think depth as a whole is pretty good. Makes me wish they had more mid-round, late-round picks, which could still happen.
That up,
right.
He was asked, Omar Khan, after day one. Of course, the Steelers have the first pick of round 2, which will be you'll have a full 24-hour period there.
The phone's going to ring.
He says you expect the phone to ring. I expect to get multiple offers for that pick.
No matter how the first 31 go. I mean, it's almost a foregone conclusion. And plus, some of it's just human nature. If any of us gets to walk away from our draft, think about it for almost 24 hours or whatever, and be like, boy, I can't believe that guy's there.
That guy's we almost took him at 24.
Oh yeah.
Well, now he's still there at 32. Get on the phone with the Steelers.
Let's get aggressive.
Yeah.
We wanted one of these two, and we can end up with both of them. Wow, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So I think that is a possibility. I've thrown out trading down from 17 too. If Breesy and Branch are out there as well as two other dudes you'd be very happy with, move down to 20. I think those two picks yield the most in terms of results.
Without a doubt. I mean, but there again, that's the beauty of having those two picks. Omar Khan was asked, if the trade with the Bears could have worked out any better. I don't know how it could have.
Well, the answer is no. I mean, when you made the deal, you didn't know that you were getting the first pick in the round.
Right, yeah.
You were hoping it was early.
So here's
I don't think
what
they
happens.
won a game since.
When you're trading future picks or trading for future picks, you have to work on the assumption that pick is going to be in the middle of
more
the
or
round.
less. Right,
more or less.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's going to be some variance there, but
right. I mean, you'd rather have the Texans pick than the Chiefs pick.
Right. But when you're looking at the pick, you have to look at it and say, okay, would we take this for the 16th pick in that round?
Right. Especially if you're doing the trade value charts and things like that. If, let's say, they trade down from 32 and a future pick's involved. Well, the Team X is going to give you their 4th rounder. Well, you pretty much equate that the same as any other teams. You know what I mean? Like, of course, you'd rather have the Texans than the Chiefs. But all in all, you look at it like it's a mid-round pick.
Especially
injuries happen.
If you're doing something 2 or 3 years down the road, you don't know what that pick's going to be.
No.
I mean,
but you value them the same in terms of numeric value, price, and if in a trade like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but things turn around quickly in the NFL.
No, but they got some assets. I mean,
they've got the assets this year to make some splash.
Make some splash.
When you're talking about
or maybe some quantity. You may bring in 5 or 6 premium prospects,
quality
right,
and
in
quantity.
a deep draft, right?
He also, so the Steelers right now have 7 picks. He said, "I'd like to acquire 7 starters with those 7 picks." I think that's the way you have to look at it.
And it's unrealistic to think the 2 7s are going to bring start. But
right.
You can turn them into 7 starters.
The Brett Kiesels of the world, who were 7th round picks, who turn into starters. So if you could eventually do that. Now, is that going to happen all the time? No. You're not going to hit on all those picks.
I mean, you get 2 or 3 starters out of any normal draft, you're pretty happy with it. But my hunch, and who knows, I'm not being a little optimistic, but I would be shocked if they don't end up with 4.
There's that. I mean,
maybe not day one.
When you have 4 picks in the top 3 rounds,
right?
By the end of their rookie contracts, you probably should have 4 starters.
Yeah, or 4 or 5 guys.
Maybe
you'd like
5
to extend.
because somebody else hit behind them.
Right. Exactly. If you have like 5 guys you want to extend 4 years from now, that'd be really, really nice.
Yeah, that means you had a good draft.
Doesn't mean they're all superstars and Pro Bowlers, but they're valuable.
That's the thing. So,
I mean, you take 5 Cam Suttons.
Yeah. This is the time of year, though, where we start to see the redrafts and things of that nature from the 2022 draft and the gradings of the rookie classes and all that stuff.
Right.
And you bring this up all the time. Of course, the New York Jets are going to be looked at as well. They had the best draft last year. Well, yeah, they had 3 first-round draft picks.
They
sure
helped.
Better have had the best draft last year.
Yeah, I'm going to win a lot more poker with aces in my hand.
I've got
threes,
3 aces, and you're sitting there. You're the Rams, and you don't have a pick until 150.
Yeah,
I'm going to have a better draft than you.
Yeah, it's hard to bluff the heck out of you, all over and over. So I'm not here to pick on the Ravens because we're Steelers, but they had tons of picks as well.
Yeah,
didn't take a receiver. And I'm not saying Linderbaum's bad or Hamilton's bad, or I don't know if they made any necessarily bad picks, but with their depth of running or of picks from that draft, as well as they had 3 or 4 third-round picks. I mean, like their mid-round picks were high quality.
Yeah. They had 4, and they took like two tight ends and a punter.
Yeah, right. And like good for the Jets. I mean, they have the defensive rookie of the year, the offensive rookie of the year, and Breece Hall could have been the offensive rookie of the year too. And again, they're all high picks, but Baltimore should look at the Jets and be like, our class should look more like that.
Yeah, we kind of screwed this up.
Yeah. I mean, and they took some low-value positions like centers and D tackles and punters and tight ends, and but still, it's a little odd.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. The Football Outsiders put out their rankings here. I'm not seeing them on here.
Rookie rankings?
Their rookie class rankings. Of course, They had the Jets. I think the Steelers came in 10th.
I say I've seen a couple
ranks where
it based
on
8 to 10.
Yeah, they do it based on how much they played.
Sure.
What impact the players made, and the
Jets in Seattle are going to be really high.
They're going to be really high because they get a lot of playing time out of those rookies. So when ESPN did a similar thing, I think it was ESPN.
Yeah, they did.
And they looked at it. They had the Ravens in the top 10 just ahead of the Steelers. Football Outsiders didn't see it that way.
Really?
They had the Ravens were like 18th or something like that.
Well, the thing
we're much lower.
The elephant in the room we're not talking about, though, is I'm only certain that one team in the league drafted a starting quarterback. I'm going to call him a franchise quarterback. I don't think he's not there yet, but he's a starting quarterback. Is that more valuable than the defensive and offensive rookie of the year rolled into one? Maybe.
I think so.
I mean, starting quarterbacks don't grow on trees.
You think the Jets would trade the offensive rookie of the year for
Would
Kenny
they trade
Pickett?
both those guys for Sauce and Breece Hall or somebody for Pickett? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
They don't have a quarterback.
Not having a quarterback is a terrible place to be.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that on here.
No. Okay.
Anyways, but that just struck me as I was looking at that. I'm like,
so it's interesting.
Because how much? Not just how if they play a lot. Because if you're on the Texans, your rookie class played a lot.
Right.
That doesn't mean they had a huge impact.
I mean, when the Steelers were running that 3-4 and they're drafting outside linebackers in the 3rd and 4th round that are first-round players, but they can't even get on the field because there's stars ahead of them. That doesn't mean it was a bad pick.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's all situational, too. So along those lines, if we can agree that the Steelers draft was between the 8th and 12th best after a year into this thing, well, the year before that, they played a ton of rookie snaps.
Yeah.
So, and then we just talked last segment about, well, they're going to have 4 premium picks, maybe even more.
Add to that.
Right. I mean, that's a 3-year stretch that you might look at a decade from now and be like, that's when things turned around.
That was the foundation.
Yeah.
That was your foundation.
The new post-Roethlisberger wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's how this goes. Because the toughest thing to do in the NFL is to maintain excellence because
the Steelers been great at that.
The rules are set up against you to do so.
Sure, picking late in the round and paying a quarterback and all those things.
And free agency is going to hit you. And,
right.
And then when you do have success, you got to pay those guys because I just helped you go to the conference championship game. Pay me,
right. And then you went to the Super Bowl and people overpay your free agents and that type of thing. And with all respect to the Rams, I mean, they're built a very different way than most teams. And they won a Super Bowl, so great. But they also had a 3-year run where they were by far the healthiest team in the league.
Yeah.
Well, this year, that check bounced. You know what I mean? Like, and those things are out of your control. I mean, Steelers didn't expect T.J. Watt to go down and miss half the year,
That's something that people seem to forget about the 2-6 start. And I know you shouldn't be that reliant on one guy.
He's defensive player of the year, though.
But he's the defensive player. Yeah,
right.
It's not like you lost your starting safety, and he's just a guy.
Or
I mean, you don't like to do that for that to happen, but it does happen.
And other teams had injuries too. I mean,
but when you had a guy, you lose a guy that had 22.5 sacks the year before. It's kind of a big deal.
I mean, we even saw it whenever he returned, and he wasn't that player at that point. And really, I don't think he was any time post-injury this year.
But opponents had to pay attention
to him.
That's
what I say, though. The way they prepared from Monday to Friday, obviously they game planned around, well, maybe he isn't that player, but what if he is against us?
What if he comes out of this and the next thing you know, our quarterback's laying on his back 5 times?
I watched him last year in his whole career. I'm not just going to treat him like he's Joe Blow. You know what I mean? So there's an impact there no matter what. And his, their stats with and without him are starkly different. He's that good. He just
That's
is.
why you pay him the way you pay him.
That's why you pay him the way you pay him.
Right. So, I think that is, he does have that kind of impact. So not having that guy available, it was really the first half of the season was the perfect storm for the Steelers, or imperfect storm, as it were.
Yeah.
You lose Watt. You're making a transition at quarterback.
Well, the whole offense was so young, too.
You're playing the toughest schedule in the league at that point.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean,
if by chance the offense were constructed like the defense, where you had the Haywards and Fitz, those guys that were stalwarts, maybe you could have overcome it. But the offense was all growing as a whole. You knew that was going to be the growing pains.
Yeah.
You'd almost rather lost Watt at the end of the year than the beginning of the year, because the offense could starting to get its legs under him.
It would have given you more wiggle room. Yeah.
Right.
Would have given you a little bit more leeway. With the offense to find its way,
as
it
100%.
did, because again, to your point, if you don't, the way the offense was playing late in the year, possessing the football, moving
found
the ball,
its identity,
and just pounding away, the defense didn't have to be as dominant because it wasn't on the field as much,
right? Which I think is should make people really enthusiastic about next year.
Yeah.
So if you can continue to do that, Pickett takes a step forward, and I was on with Wes earlier, and he said it really well. And we were talking about the offense. It's not going to be a linear climb. It's not just going to be 1 step forward, 2 steps forward. It's going to be 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, 8 steps forward. But in the end, if it's still going forward, your quarterback's going to have a massive ripple effect on the offense. You're going to throw for more touchdowns. Deontay's not going to catch 0 touchdowns for the year.
Yeah.
And if you can create explosive plays to go with that foundation you build in the second half of the season, the offense should carry its water.
Yeah,
at a minimum.
Agree. Speaking of that offense, that was another one of the things that Omar Khan referenced earlier today. He was asked about the situation with Calvin Austin. He said Calvin Austin on track to be back and be ready for all the OTAs and mini camps and all those things.
Yeah, so you'll also infuse some people, too, that weren't on last year's team.
Right.
And I'm not picking on Chase Claypool, but they learned a lot by trading him. Not only would I rather have the 32nd pick than Claypool. I mean, that ended up working out phenomenal. But you had to change how you played. I mean, those 5 skill guys were Johnson, Claypool, Pickens, usually Najee, and Freiermuth. So you take one out, you put 4 or 5 other guys got a spike in playing time, and the style of play changed dramatically.
Yeah.
I mean, like for the last 3 years, they were like the heaviest 11 personnel team in the league. Well, that wasn't the case last year, especially post-Claypool.
Yeah.
You learned how to play a different way.
I thought that they became tougher to play against.
I do, too. Maybe they didn't have as much skill on the field. Like, with all respect to Gentry, I mean, he's a good blocker. He is what he is. But what if that guy was also someone that could stretch the field? Wow, now you're really hard to play against. And multiple tight ends is hard to play against, period.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go with all this stuff, and we're going to get a glimpse of it when we actually get to the draft, and we'll probably get maybe a little bit of a glimpse of it in free agency with what they prioritize.
Yeah, right. They're going to add something to the offense.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and they already did a sneaky move by re-signing Anthony Miller. I don't think that's a knock on Austin at all, but when a team makes a quick move like that, they like him. They don't want to deal with open market.
We raved about him all last training camp.
I thought
what kind of camp he was having.
Right. So
and then it got taken away. So a guy like that's again, you're playing with house money with a guy like that.
Yeah.
It
unfortunately
costs you nothing to acquire him.
Right. And unfortunately for his career path, he's going to take the bird in the hand with the money. And he did well in camp. They must like him. I wouldn't be shocked if he plays a fair amount of snaps next year.
Yeah.
You know,
if he shows that he's capable of doing
right.
making that improvement. But, yeah, I'm with you. That's why I don't necessarily know that wide receiver in this draft is something that you're going to see. Certainly not a premium pick spent on.
And his coach says all the time, too, I mean, you paint the barn red when there's red paint. And I do think there's receiver depth, but there's so many receiver-needy teams right now, and free agency's bad.
You're going to end up chasing.
I think they get overdrafted more so. I would rather – I mean, all things being equal, I know people are going to laugh at me, but I'd rather draft a tight end than a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's the third round and I have a same grade on both, I would rather have a tight end than a wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm with you. This week, we're giving Steelers Nation even more ways to consume the SNR Drive content at the annual Scouting Combine. You can listen to us live here each day, 2 to 4 on SNR. You can also get our programs, as usual, on demand, where you get all your favorite podcasts. But for this week, you can also watch and listen to our shows here on Radio Row each night during the Combine on the Steelers YouTube channel. That's live on SNR through our podcast and the Steelers YouTube page. So check that out on there. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio. We're live in Indianapolis. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more right after this. Steeler fans, the Steelers media platforms are loaded with great Steelers Combine content all week long. Visit Steelers.com and the Steelers official mobile app to hear live and on-demand SNR audio content, exclusive one-on-one video interviews with key decision makers, and daily editorial coverage. The team also has great throwback Combine workout highlights on current Steelers for you to check out. That's all this week on the Steelers media platforms. That's kind of the cool thing, because one of the things that you watch guys here at the Combine, their workouts and everything, and we might watch it a little bit more than your average Joe.
Of course.
But it's kind of cool, like, to go back after the Steelers actually draft a guy and then look at
– Yeah, that's a good point.
You kind of see what they're looking for.
Yeah. That is a neat way of doing it. You could just line up. Well, these are the last 4 receivers they drafted.
Yeah.
What's in common?
What are the commonalities?
Right. Or here's all the – I'm going to really be a dork, but all the short shuttles of all the interior offensive linemen they picked. Well, I picked that because that correlates a lot with success at the NFL level. Does this team care about it or not?
Right.
Some do, some don't. Or the L drill, the 3-cone for edge pass rushers is usually really indicative of success at the next level, bending that edge. Some teams don't care. They just want to run through you.
Yeah, so that's one way to go back and look. And, I can remember sitting here a few years ago and, the T.J. Watt buzz. Well, you heard it. He's overrated.
Yeah.
If his name was T.J. Williamson.
Right.
Would he be a first-round draft pick? As it turns out.
Right.
Yeah.
He ended up having a really good combine, too.
Yeah.
People forget that part. I mean, just like Big Brother, he blew it up when he was here. But there were concerns. I mean, he came to Wisconsin as a tight end, and, he wasn't a finished product and didn't have a huge body of work. But also a good edge rusher class, which didn't help.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt. It helped his cause a little bit. And I'm trying to think of negatives at the time. It's hard to go back in that world. But he's a little bit narrow-waisted. He's not, doesn't look like Bud Dupree, I mean, but, he was a player.
Turns out,
It ended up just fine.
So we've already gotten some of that, too, with Joey Porter Jr.
Oh, sure.
First of all, no, everybody wouldn't be mocking him to the Steelers if his name was Joey Jones.
Oh, I think some people take the short end.
We're just put him in there.
Yeah.
But the fact is that he's going to test here
probably really well.
Really well.
Yeah.
And he's going to be one of the top 3 cornerbacks in this draft.
Yeah, and they have a corner need, and corners are expensive. And I said this with Pickett, though, too. Like, if you scout –
It didn't matter that Kenny Pickett was from Pitt.
See, I think it did because
I don't think in the grand scheme they didn't take him because he went to Pitt.
No, that's like
yeah.
I remember when Coach walked past us after they drafted James Conner. I'm like, that's a good story. Somebody says, like, I don't care. He's a good running back. I don't care that he beat cancer and worked next door. I mean, I'm going to hand him the football and try to win games with the guy. But where I'm going from is from a scouting. When you're the scout, I mean, every team's different in terms of what they ask of you. And yes, you're a talent evaluator, but as much as anything, you gather information. So the fact that the Steelers probably, I promise you, knew more about Pickett than the Titans did and the Falcons, etc.,
doesn't hurt,
is great.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can give me more information to make a decision off of, I feel more confident with it. Well, they'll probably know a little bit about Joey Porter than the Falcons will.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, and they knew more about, for example, T.J. Watt because Paul Christ was the coach there.
Right.
And he had been next door, and so you have that relationship with those guys.
I mean, if you hit 50% of your draft picks, you're very, very happy. So if I have a chance to be 55% right on this guy because I know more than the other teams do, well, that's just a logical risk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's not cheating.
No, exactly. I mean, it's just like any scout, too. I mean, Steelers have a great scouting staff that have been doing it a long time. And those dudes that walk into Auburn year after year after year have somebody that in that building that they trust.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want that guy, or I trust this guy to know
it's
end.
the Bill Nunn,
gathering information.
It's the Bill Nunn thing. He was scouting the historically black colleges before anybody else. He knew those guys. They all knew him. They all trusted him.
They tell him things.
And so the coach at South Carolina State, when Donnie Shell's looking to go somewhere as an undrafted free agent, says, no, you want to go to the Steelers because Bill Nunn's there.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? But, I mean, I bet
that's how that works.
I bet Bill Nunn looked at John Stallworth and said, that's the 10th best player in this draft.
And he did, and then he hid the tape.
And then you got to wait, and you hope nobody else saw it.
Cheating.
Right. Well, that part's a little Well, it worked out just fine.
All's fair in love and war in the NFL.
Yeah. But like Donnie Shell, I'm sure they had a high grade on him, but I know no one's going to take him. No one's wanting that school from the Cardinals.
Well, that was the story about Stallworth, is that they kept saying you could wait around to get Stallworth.
Right.
And Chuck Noll was getting antsy about it, like, no, he's the
best player in the draft.
He's a first-round guy. We like him.
Yeah,
He's a first-round guy. Why are we waiting till round 4 to get him?
Yeah.
Well, as it turned out, you got 4.
Because I have buddies in that.
5 Hall of Famers out of that draft.
Because I'm sure Mr. Nunn had friends in that building, and he's like, well, no other team came in but you.
Yeah. Well, he took the tape.
And, well, in that case, it was a little shady. But
nobody else had 100 on him that was good. Like
the
100 they had on him was 4.7 in wet grass, and none went back and reran him and had to
Mm-hmm. So. No, I mean his was an outlier. But anyway, I mean gathering information is the job. However you do it.
However you do it. If you got to take the janitor a box of donuts to get that information,
and you do.
You take the janitor a box of donuts to get that information.
No different than getting a medical check, and the doc says he's got a bad knee. Don't draft him. Right? Okay.
So there's going to be some of that this week.
Oh yeah.
Obviously. So explain to people why one team would scratch a guy off their list for medicals and another team wouldn't.
Yeah, and I have a hard time doing that because I didn't go to med school, and I can't be like, well, this ACL's a little loose or whatever. But frankly, they get poked and prodded, and we had a good conversation with Max Starks to open the show in the 10 o'clock hour. He was talking about his experiences and how awful it is, really. I mean, it's just a long day. But every doctor's here, or they're invited. I don't know if they all showed up. I don't really care. But every team has the same X-rays. He mentioned MRIs, Max. He said, I had an ankle or a knee or something the year before he got drafted. And so
they want to go and look at it to see if there's any loose bodies in there, all that stuff.
And they all get the same picture or results, and 29 teams might be like, he's fine. 3 might not. Just like you or I, or you take your kid to the pediatrician.
Well, and that's where you weigh the long-term prognosis for the guy, or maybe your doctor's saying, well, 5 years from now, this is going to be a problem.
See, that's the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, I think the guard for the Chiefs that everyone's praising the Chiefs for, Trey Smith.
Yeah.
He's leading them to Super Bowls.
He wasn't supposed to be a 6th-round draft pick.
No. Like, his tape is a second-round pick or definitely a top 50 pick. But I bet the knock on him, and I hope it's untrue, is he's just not going to have a long career. There's a high percentage chance compared to the other guards in this draft that his career will end due to injuries or wear and tear faster than the next guy. I hope it doesn't for his case, but and the Chiefs probably weighed that as, well, we need a guard really bad, and he might start from us from day one. If we get one contract out of him, great.
Yeah, especially in the 6th round.
In the 6th round, right. But
that's where you weigh the cost versus the the long-term issues of it.
Exactly.
But we weren't going to spend a premium 2nd-round pick on him.
No, because that needs to be a starter, hopefully for 2 contracts.
Yeah, hopefully you get 2 contracts out of that guy. So that you're going to hear some. Well, that team's medically he didn't pass this team's medicals or that team's medicals. Well, that doesn't mean he flunked everybody's medicals.
No, absolutely not. And there will be players that are off boards now. That are all up there, and next week are not even on the board. Like your docs will be like, there's also liability to it too.
Right.
Like somebody gets hurt, you got to pay them, and it's like bad business too. Like we don't want to deal with that because his knee's never going to hold up.
Yeah. So I mean, those are the things that you have to weigh. This week,
and it makes coaches crazy.
Yeah. This week, we're giving Steelers Nation even more ways to consume SNR Drive content at the annual NFL Scouting Combine. You can listen to us live here each day from 2 to 4 on SNR. You can also get our programs, as usual, on demand, where you get all of your favorite podcasts. But for this week, you can also watch and listen to our shows here on Radio Row each night at the Combine on the Steelers YouTube channel. That's live on SNR through our podcast and the Steelers YouTube page right here from the Combine. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio. We'll be back with Hour 2 right after this. Welcome back to the Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson. And Matt, all the movers and shakers, the top guys from around the league talking here today, many of them for the first time this offseason. And so there's some news.
Oh, okay,
today.
Good. I've kind of been out of the loop. I've been in the air a bunch.
Some newsy stuff. So Marcus Mariota released by the Atlanta Falcons.
Expected,
not that that's a surprise.
but right.
He basically,
official.
So once they went to Desmond Ridder, he just basically left the building.
Yeah.
Like he was Elvis.
It's kind of a Derek Carr situation, too.
Yeah.
It's like we're planning on releasing you. The worst thing that could happen is you get hurt, and then we're on the hook. So
away.
we like you and all, but just vanish for a little bit.
So Marcus Mariota back on there. How about this
What's
news?
his future? Is he just a long-term, too?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Leslie Frazier, who is the defensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, has decided to take a year off from coaching in 2023 and intends to return in 2024.
Interesting. I mean, he's a very well-respected. I think he's interviewed for head jobs. His defense has been quite good.
He's been a head coach.
Yeah, he's been a head coach. Right. I don't know who would be in waiting. I assume they'd bump somebody up. I wouldn't want to.
At this point,
rock that boat too much. But the Bills are losing more than they're gaining this offseason. I can promise you that. And that's just one more that probably a lot of us didn't see coming. I guess that is kind of a big deal. I'll be honest. Being around coaches, and you have too, it's so hard on your body and your mentality. I'm surprised more guys don't do it, but I think you have to be this established to say, I'm going to take a step back because I don't know if I can ever come back.
You don't know if you're ever going to get that chance again.
Yeah.
Well, Leslie Frazier probably will, so he can do that.
And I'm sure that Bill said their door's still open, or who knows, but it's a grind.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. The hours that that's why whenever somebody says to me, such and such former player, why don't they bring that guy back as a coach? That's not the question of whether they would want to bring that guy back. It's whether that guy would want to put himself into that situation to work those kind of hours.
Right. It's much different than being a player, and people aren't catering to you and patting you on the back and telling you how great you are. It's quite the opposite, in fact, in terms of media or whoever. And you can't just throw a guy in there you got to kind of work your way up. I mean, certainly some players have some advantages that other coaches don't. I mean, most coaching careers don't begin in the NFL. They begin as in high school level or
college level,
right, exactly. And you work your way up, so they get to bounce up. But it's still 100-hour weeks and grinds, and and
not
you don't know
seeing
if you're
your family 8 months out of the year.
Right, and are you a good teacher?
Right,
Who knows?
that's the other thing.
Right.
Can you, Ted Williams was maybe the greatest hitter of all time.
Right.
Wasn't a great coach.
Right.
Because he expected everybody to play like he played. What do you mean you can't do that?
You can't see the laces on the curveball versus screwball? I mean, what are you talking about? Right. So just do it like this. Well, that doesn't help me, Coach.
Also from the Bills media session, DeMar Hamlin continues to see specialists, has 2 or 3 more that he has to see, continuing his recovery. This according to Brandon Beane, their GM. He said, assuming he gets full clearance, I know he'll want to play.
Yeah, of course. And just talking football, obviously we know what happened there. Poyer's a free agent. He was the number.
They kind of need him.
He was the three safety.
He was playing a lot this year.
He was playing a lot. His career was ascending. He was their big nickel package. I would assume that they looked at this thing big picture and thought Poyer's probably going to leave.
Yeah.
He'll probably be a starter next year.
He's the starter in waiting.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big deal too.
Derek Carr expected to have an in-person interview with the Carolina Panthers here in Indianapolis.
I heard he's here, right.
Yeah.
So I bet there's several teams he's going to chat with.
Yeah.
I mean you don't come here for one.
If we're out in different places, we may see him having dinner somewhere with somebody.
Yeah, right.
Go on Derek Carr watch.
Yeah. Do you think he inks a deal like in the next week? Because he can, unlike other free agents.
He can, and he's not going to hurt somebody in their comp. I think you'd want to get that done. The teams are going to want to do it as quickly as possible.
Yes.
If you're him, are you better off waiting? That's
know.
what I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, it depends. I mean,
because the need's
really
only going to go up.
Right.
But the problem then becomes, well, they just signed somebody else, and so therefore your pool shrinks.
Well, I think Aaron Rodgers coming out of his dark chamber or whatever is key here because at least now the Jets can talk to Rodgers or the Raiders or whatever. And assuming they prefer Rodgers to Carr, which I don't know that I would. I mean, I'm kind of torn on that because it'd be Carr but you still have your first-round pick, and you still have
Aaron
other things.
Rodgers is the crazy hot chick that you wanted to date in high school.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to date the hot chick, and then they find out she's
Until
crazy.
you're with her every day, yeah. And is she still
what
as hot?
level of crazy are you willing to deal with here?
And how hot is she still?
Yeah, and how,
I mean, he was hot 2 years ago. Is he still hot? I don't know.
We're not trying to
I think
offend
so.
anybody here, but that's just
Right. And you may only date the crazy hot chick for a year.
Or the crazy hot dude, as it were.
Right, whatever floats your boat, But Carr at least doesn't cost anything except for cap space. Rodgers is a ton of cap space, probably at least a first-round pick, and you might only have him for a year. And he's maybe nuts.
And he may go into the desert and smoke peyote or something.
Right. How would he deal with the Big Apple media too? There's a combustible situation. Like if I'm the Jets, I might rather have Carr. Yeah. But I do think the Rodgers going away in the darkness had something to do with Carr being the consolation prize for a couple teams, maybe.
Yeah.
But
that Aaron Rodgers situation is just so weird.
So weird. I'm telling you, get weirder as he gets older. We all get weirder.
Tell me about it. Yeah. So the Browns, this according to Mike Garofalo, and General Manager Andrew Berry confirmed this on Tuesday, which you don't often see.
Mm-hmm.
But they are going to release John Johnson.
Oh, are they? I didn't see that.
Starting safety. It was
expensive.
It was a bad deal when they signed him.
Right. But he'll get paid again. I mean, he's not a bad player.
Yeah.
They just gave him too much.
They gave him too much money, and they need the cap space. They're one of these teams that are way over the cap.
Yeah, their defense has a lot of holes. I mean, they probably need 2 D tackles.
That's the problem now. As you release this guy, he was your starter last year. Now you got to replace him.
Yeah. I mean, just off the top of my head, they need now a starting safety. Definitely a starting linebacker. I know they had a lot of injuries there.
They better add a defensive tackle group.
I think you need 2 of those.
I think all their off-ball linebackers are free agents.
Oh, are they? That I didn't know. I knew they were all hurt at the end of the year. And you need a Clowney replacement.
Yeah.
So what do you have, like 4 or 5 starters on defense right now?
You got basically Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and then a bunch of guys.
Wosu Koromora will be back in the mix and safety here and there. And they don't have a first-round pick or a lot of cap space. So, again, they're going backwards.
Other than that, it should work out great. Oh, and by the way, they should probably add to their wide receiver group.
Oh, yeah. And all of a sudden, the O-line's starting to look a little shaky.
The center's
a free
agent.
agent. Yeah. And I think they're not going to pick up Wirf's 5th year either. So Watson has to be a great player.
Yes, he has to.
He can't
be a top.
He can't be 10th.
He can't be a top 10 quarterback. He better be a top 5.
He has to be in Mahomes and Allen's.
Transcendent.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be Josh Allen-ish. And
I don't know if I like him as a player.
Right.
I don't know if he can be that.
I don't know if he can be that. Right.
Especially not at this point.
I mean,
he certainly didn't show it this past season.
I mean, there's a very good chance when it's all said and done, he's the 8th best quarterback in the AFC.
Yeah.
Or maybe even the 3rd best within his division.
All of a sudden, too, their running back depth isn't what it was.
No, Hunt won't be back.
Dearness Johnson's a free agent as
well.
Right. I mean, all that depth that you had at running back was, if something happens, we're okay there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if that's the case now.
Chubb's tremendous, but when they start getting about 27, the cliff is coming.
Yeah.
And so they may have to draft a back next year.
Got an injury history.
Yeah.
According to CEO Stephen Jones, the Cowboys are interested in exploring a contract extension for CeeDee Lamb.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
They may even add to that receiver room, but they can't afford to let him leave anytime soon.
Also, they're interested in a contract extension with Trayvon Diggs.
Okay. I wonder what he would ask.
I don't know that I want to pay Trayvon Diggs what Trayvon Diggs is going to want.
I'm sure that's sort of all I could think about was last year I thought he was vastly overrated. We talked about that a lot in the air, because the interception numbers were extreme. I think he's a good player. I think he's a starting corner. I don't think he's a top 5 corner. If he was paid like a top 10 corner, I'm like, we'll wait till your contract's up and go from there,
Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting one. And again, you get, Tony Pollard. According to Stephen Jones, his leg injury expected to be ready for training camp. Mm-hmm. Same thing with that
was a late season injury, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that may actually help them in the long term.
Maybe.
Because, is he going to get the free agent deal that,
I think they franchise him. I mean, running back's only $10 million. The Zeke number has to come down, or he may even get cut.
I would think that the relationship that Jerry Jones has with Zeke, that you just go to Zeke and say, hey, Zeke, we need you to for the good of the team, we need you to take one here. We've paid you a lot of money.
Yeah, and I think that's his only option. I mean, nobody's going to trade for him or wants him at his contract.
If they released him, he's not going to get anywhere near whatever the Cowboys are going to give him.
And it might be Emmitt Smith with the Cardinals type situation. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it probably doesn't end well. I mean, he has very little burst.
Maybe you have Emmitt call him and say, hey, look,
This is the life you chose.
Yeah,
right.
This is it.
Yeah.
If
your day is done, and
you want to be seen in a Cardinals uniform or a Rams uniform, whatever it may be.
Right. I mean, somebody would pick him up, but it wouldn't be a priority. He may even sit out there until training camp.
Right.
It's like that's kind of embarrassing too.
Hall
of Famer?
No.
Probably not.
He's not at that level yet.
Yeah. He needs to compile more, which he probably won't.
Yeah. Javonte Williams, who suffered a torn ACL early in the season, is on track to be ready for the regular season, according to Broncos general manager George Payton.
I heard the opposite 2 days ago.
Well, they don't want to put a date on it, but the team will have another back or two if he's not ready.
Okay.
So
that was a J.K. Dobbins-like injury that was not ready to start the season.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a bad one. I'd be very worried about that.
He said he's on track.
Okay.
So
because the blurb I read 2 days ago.
The track can get sidetracked. That's the whole thing.
Oh, of course. Yeah, the blurb on him.
He can be on track and then get sidetracked, hence the word sidetracked.
They could use him.
Yeah.
That offense has a chance to be decent if Wilson's better than terrible.
Yeah.
Judy, Sutton, Patrick.
Better than
what he was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's close to the player he used to be, which I don't know what ever happened.
But if Javonte Williams isn't part of that equation, that hurts.
It hurts. And everyone to blame Wilson and Hackett last year, and they deserve plenty of it. But it would have been nice to have been able to hand the ball to him all year, too.
Yeah.
He's a really good player.
Brett Veach, the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, said Orlando Brown could have the franchise tag placed on him, but a long-term deal is obviously more beneficial.
Ooh, he scares me.
Yeah.
He really scares me.
I mean, it wasn't, 5 years ago we were sitting here talking about him and his combine performance as perhaps the worst combine performance for a big-time player in the history of the combine.
However,
you
weren't sitting here during the 10 o'clock hour with Mr. Starks. We were talking about Orlando Brown. There's Max right there. And do you know who they compared Orlando Brown's combine to? Max Starks was his comparison. Not nice.
Max would take Orlando Brown's paycheck that he's going to get.
He's going to make a lot of money. After the combine, comparable, Starks, Max. That's not nice.
So, according to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who is the general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson's pending contract extension is a high priority for the Vikings. He also said he does not want to manage a team without Jefferson in the building. I don't know if he did himself any help there in his contract negotiations by adding that little part of the equation.
I mean, it's no secret,
you say you can't live without me? Oh, okay.
Like in the dynasty community, Jefferson and Chase are worth way more than everybody else. Like at their age, their production, they're going to be the two most expensive receivers in the league, and it's not even going to be close.
See, this is going to be the problem for the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
And we've talked about this before. So not only you're going to give Burrow a new contract this offseason.
Sure.
Next offseason, you're probably going to start talking to Chase.
And he's going to say, I want Jefferson plus 10%.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a contract in place for him to jump off of.
And then you got to pay Higgins, which you're not going to be able to do.
Probably not. I don't think that Higgins trade stuff is real. But
so if you let's say but
they got to pay Higgins before Chase. Well, they don't have to.
They don't have to, but
he's a year older and he doesn't have the first round.
Right.
So you could buy a little Chase time. Man, it's going to be tough to keep all three.
I mean, and that's the thing. So that's the conundrum that you run into in today's NFL.
Right. Without question. I don't think Boyd will be there long term. Hurst is a free agent. They don't really throw to tight ends, but a lot of people mock a tight end there in the first round, which makes sense because it's a hole.
And if you're going to part ways with Boyd, then a tight end can do a lot of the stuff that he does, maybe even better.
Kincaid or somebody like that. One of the guys can run.
No shock here. Mike Garofalo reporting that Kenny Golladay has been informed he will be released on the first day of the league year on March 15th.
As bad a free agent signing as we've seen in 5 years.
It's right up there with who was the defensive tackle that signed with Washington?
Hainsworth.
Yeah, Albert Hainsworth.
Yeah, I mean,
Washington might have gotten more out of Hainsworth.
I would say at least he played a little bit.
Right? The Giants got out of Kenny Golladay in 2 years.
In the worst receiver room in the league, give or take, too. You're right.
They didn't have any receivers, and he still couldn't play.
I mean, that's not even like an opinion. If you just look at how many catches he had in a Giants uniform,
all right, I'm going to look it up,
against how many dollars they paid him, I wonder. There's probably not a receiver I'm not trying to exaggerate. I bet there's not a receiver in history that made more dollars per catch.
Per catch. I'm gonna look that up here. I'm going to Spot Track.
Okay.
It's a 4-year, $72 million contract.
It set the market.
Oh, it set the market
way back when, right?
Yeah.
And he was actually an overage guy coming into the league.
Yeah.
So he's not young.
And we're back to having our internet not work real quickly.
Okay. Well, he didn't have many catches for that $72 million. Well, he's not going to see every dollar of that $72 million, but
maybe everybody's trying to access Kenny Galladay here now. His contract
over
status.
here in our conversation.
Yeah, he's 29 years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
he hasn't been good for 3 years.
So for his stats, so over the last 2 years, actually he signed in 2021. So he got a base salary. Let's see, it was a 4-year, $72 million. So he pocketed $18.2 million in 2021, 17.75. So total package, what he got paid? $35.955 million.
Rounded up to 36.
Yeah.
I bet he didn't have 36 catches.
In the last 2 seasons with the Giants, Kenny Galladay caught. And here we're on an internet lag here. That's just really bad.
I'm betting under 36 catches. He made more than $1 million per catch.
I don't know that he played in 10 games.
I say he may have 5 catches.
Here we go. So, in those 2 years, he had 17. No, he had more than that. He had in 2021. He had 666 receiving yards. So he had 37 catches.
Okay.
Overall, he played 666 snaps. So he had 43 catches for quick math, 602 yards.
Total.
So
about $1 million per catch, about $850,000 per catch.
One touchdown.
And 1 touchdown. Wow. And no impact on games.
None.
Wow. Bad signing. As bad as it gets.
Bad signing. And here's the thing. His last year in Detroit, he only played in 5 games. He had 20 catches. Okay. So you kind of knew what was happening.
Yeah, they remember there was injuries and stuff that was starting to settle in.
They were starting to,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before that, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons.
Yeah, he had a really good start to his career.
But, yeah.
I mean, he'll get picked up at a 1-year deal for league minimum, I guess.
Yeah, somebody will take a chance.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd be on that. I mean, for next to nothing.
Approve it.
Yeah.
General Manager Joe Schoen from the Giants says he is cautiously optimistic the team will be able to re-sign Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley.
Man, that is really hairy.
That's going to be expensive.
You might regret it.
Yeah.
You know, investing in backs at that age, although I think he's more of a weapon than a back, doesn't bear fruit usually. But it's working. They have a formula there.
I mean, ideally you franchise tag Barkley
because it's only 10.
But then you're gonna re-sign Daniel Jones once,
yes,
big money.
But the sticky thing about it is, if I'm Daniel Jones' agent, I come to the table and say, okay, you have the franchise tag bargaining chip. We're going to start negotiations there.
Yeah.
Or right around there. Maybe I'll do you a favor and give you 32, and I think 34 is the number, something like that. Do I want to invest $32 million, or do I want to give Daniel Jones $70 million over 2 years? I mean, there's an argument for both.
In the short term, I think you make it a shorter-term contract with him.
Yeah.
A 2 or 3 year deal, not a 4 or 5 year deal.
Or at least one you can get out of
and
incentive laden.
Yeah, you have escalators and things of that nature you build in there. You don't put a bunch of guaranteed money in it.
No.
But is he going to accept that?
But somebody would.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, if he hits the open market, he'll get 35 plus.
Right.
And he's not that good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he improved.
That's the problem.
And they threw the worst receivers in the league.
Oh, here we go. So Derek Carr also expected to have an in-person interview with the Saints.
They almost said that before. Like, they already talked. Why would they not do that again if they're in the same city?
And the Jets.
Okay. Yeah, right.
So he's going to be making the rounds here. Again, he's going from dinner to dinner to dinner.
He might sign in the next 24 hours.
It's like Christmas for him.
It's great. It's like a recruiting trip, yeah.
He's going to weigh 25 pounds more after this week than he did heading into this thing, because he's going to have a whole bunch of
all kinds of goodies.
Yeah, steaks. Yeah. St. Elmo steaks.
I would think if he's going to meet
with 3
teams.
They should do speed dating with him.
Yeah, there you go. Boop. You go to the next table, and you go to the next table, and there's another steak, and there's a lobster, and right. But if you're going to meet with 3 teams in 3 days, and
it's heating up, yeah.
I bet he signs by the end of the week.
Probably, yeah.
Because those teams can't sit around and wait. I mean, what are the
Saints
going to do if you don't get them, right?
Okay, do we need to start looking heavier at this quarterback class?
Mm-hmm. Like Carr versus Garoppolo.
Free agency starts in real free agency starts in 2 weeks.
Who were the teams again? It was Jets,
Saints, and Panthers.
Panthers. Yeah. Okay. At least the Panthers are in position to draft one.
Yeah.
The Saints might have to overspend a little and be like, Derek, let's lock this thing up.
If I'm the Panthers, I want to do that because then I can use that 9th overall pick on something else.
Oh, yeah. You'd rather go the car route for them than
I can also win that division. I can envision a signing Derek Carr to whatever it's going to cost you. The Panthers being the pick to win that division next year.
I agree. I think they would be. Yeah. If it comes out tonight that the Panthers win or sign Derek Carr, I think my pick to win the division on February 28th is Carolina.
If the Saints sign Derek Carr, I might feel the same way.
I might feel
about
the
them.
same. Right. I think Tampa's a disaster.
Tampa's going to be a disaster.
Right.
Atlanta's still trying to figure some things out. I think
Tampa might truly tank.
Yeah.
And trade Mike Evans.
But I think Atlanta's still a year or two away.
Right.
But Carolina,
unless they trade for Lamar or something, right?
Carolina and New Orleans are both set up not to win big right now, but at least win that division right now with the quarterback.
Yeah, a bad division and have a winning record and build some things. Four new quarterbacks in that division.
It's amazing.
It's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. The Steelers played. They went 4-0 in that division last year.
Mm-hmm.
You'd like to play it this year, that division. This upcoming
it wasn't
season.
Great this past year either.
Yeah,
but Bucks looked a lot scarier than this time last year than they were during the year.
Yeah.
Bucks could pick first in the draft.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. They have no money.
This week, we're giving Steelers Nation even more ways to consume SNR Drive content at the annual NFL Scouting Combine. You can listen to us live here each day from 2 to 4 on SNR. You can also get our programs, as usual, on demand, where you get all your favorite podcasts. But for this week, and for right now, this week only, you can also watch and listen to our shows here on Radio Row each night during the Combine on the Steelers YouTube channel.
Nice.
And even if you're not checking out our content, check out all the other great content that's on there. There's videos, interviews, all kinds of goodies on there. Check that stuff out. That's all live on SNR through our podcast and on the Steelers YouTube page. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson. And we are, as we were just talking about, the pride of Pitt Johnstown.
Yeah, how about that?
Both proud Pitt Johnstown
UPJ
graduates.
listeners, you got to get us up there for a little party.
I'm not supposed to look at the camera, but I'm looking at the camera. Come on, man. Anyways, so here at the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis at the Indiana Convention Center, we're in the Hoosier corridor here. How about that?
There you go.
So, Matt, going into this draft, let's go through the Steelers by position. I'm going to give you 1 through 5. I want you to prioritize what they're. I don't have a pen here to keep track of all this because somebody took my bag away. But I'll write it down here on my laptop.
You have a laptop in front of you. I bet you could figure out a Word document.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, so is 5 a massive need and 1's a minor need?
Yes, let's do it that way.
Okay.
So 1 to 5. 5 being the greatest, 1 being the least. And we'll start at, as we usually do, quarterback.
1.5.
1.5 at QB, says Matt Williamson. I am going to say, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go 1, though.
I almost went that low, but I think you have to bring in you need 2 more guys. I mean, they don't have to be Marino and Elway. I mean, you need 2 more guys.
But you're not using a first 2 day pick in the first 2 days of the draft.
Absolutely not.
Position.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even factor in that Trubisky may or may not be back. I think he's back.
I mean, Omar. The way Omar talked about him today, the way Art Rooney II has talked about him, he's going to be back.
Yeah, and I want to get your take on this too. Just the way that he phrased it. He said this year and maybe beyond.
Yeah.
Like all these people that are worried about his cap hit, we've talked about so much.
Yeah.
Well, you could extend him and lessen his cap hit this year.
You can do that.
You know what I mean? Like
that
you
is
can still kind of do both. You know?
That is allowed. Running back.
2.
A 2. A 2.
I mean, it's not nothing.
Right.
I wouldn't mind a big play guy there, a Darren Sproles type, but it's not required.
I'm willing to give Anthony McFarland an opportunity to do that.
Yep.
I'm also going to bring in maybe a couple priority free agents like I did last year.
Yeah, that's a good position to do that at. Maybe bring 3 of them in with some return skills.
Yeah, see which one
maybe one
fits.
Can play a slot a little bit too. And let's move that to a 1.5.
Okay. See, I talked to you.
Yeah.
1.5. I'm going to go.
I bet they don't draft a running back.
Yeah, I would bet that as well.
Right.
Unless
but
the value
call
is
in the UFA.
Unless the value is just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a
but
third
it's
round.
Really deep.
You get to the 7th round and there's a third rounder guy sitting there. You're going to take him.
My logic with the 2 was this is a year to be in the running back market more than most. So I always like to set it up that you can, drink from the deep pool. You know what I mean? There's tons of free agents. There's tons. It's a really good class.
You got 2 guys who you like.
Yeah.
They're both young.
Yeah. Warren was a real find.
Yeah. Tight end.
3.5.
3.5. I'm going to go 2.5 at tight end. I think
this is another one.
I think you'd like to add one. I don't think it's going to be a premium pick.
Right.
Because you've got other needs. But
I like Hayward quite a bit.
And you're looking for a specific skill set from that tight end.
I think this guy needs to be 260 or more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's going to be big enough to ride. You're
right. Like Freiermuth's an okay blocker, but not a great one.
The problem that you have with Hayward, and I like Hayward as well,
he's a niche.
If something happens to Pat Freiermuth,
he's not plug and play.
He's not automatically replacing what Pat Freiermuth does.
Right. I would like to see an upgrade over Gentry in some way, shape, or form. And this draft is
I'm willing to look at it
them.
this way that, okay, let's say instead of going to the tight end meetings this year, that Hayward goes to the running back meetings as a fullback.
Yeah, that's fine, too.
That's fine. And then I add 2 tight ends. Maybe I re-sign Gentry and
draft a guy.
I draft a guy.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't turn my nose up at Gentry, too.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. And you have 4 of those guys then. Fullback tight ends.
Yeah. Now there are some interchangeability there.
Mm-hmm.
And Hayward could still do some tight end stuff for you, but
I would love to see them add one of these draftable tight ends.
You're in love with that.
I just love the class. But that's not the exercise.
But
we're talking about needs.
While other teams are doing that, you can then get value at other positions.
Right, but no one's going to draft 2 tight ends. And if there's 15 good ones
the
in
Ravens
this one,
might.
The Ravens might take 6, but yeah. So maybe the need I overshot, but my desire to add one was higher.
I hear you. Offensive tackle. We'll split the offensive line up.
4.
I knew you were going there.
I like the starters, but I want to leave this draft with a offensive tackle prospect.
Okay.
I know I'm not starter, a prospect. I mean, somebody you need to draft one.
I'm going 3 there.
Okay. That's a position I'll be sad if they don't draft one.
I think they'll definitely add an offensive tackle in this draft.
Yeah.
Interior offensive line.
Let's do guards and centers. I think it's different.
Okay.
Guard to me is a 1.
Guard to me is a 4.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Well, Kevin Dotson
Mm-hmm.
is heading into year 4.
Yeah. Okay. Is he in the long-term plans?
Is he a long-term guy for you?
Understandable. For that reason, I'll bump it to a 2.
Well, now you're changing on me.
But I think Moore or
and
Cole
I would also,
might be his replacement.
But I would also like somebody to compete with him this year, as you did with Kendrick Green last year. And I'm not saying that Kevin Dotson doesn't win that job.
Right.
Ideally, yeah, he does. And then the guy that you draft is your swing guy on game days. But I'm not willing to just say Kevin Dotson. I like Kevin Dotson.
Right. But there's inconsistencies
But there's inconsistency. I don't want to just say, Kevin, you're automatically the starter this year because we didn't bring anybody else in.
Okay. See, that's why I want to bring in a center and or a tackle because I think Moore or Cole could be that guard.
I don't know.
But you might not want to rock the boat with the starters.
I don't know. Cole, having spoken to Cole, he likes playing center a lot more than guard. I think he's
better at it, too.
I think he's better at it, yeah. So I think he has more value as your center. And I think he was really good with the intangible stuff at center last year.
Yeah, with the rookie quarterback.
Making the calls with the rookie quarterback and all that stuff. I think I think you found something there.
I hadn't thought about the Dotson 4-year angle until you just brought it up. And then I kind of went, oh, he has a point there, which you do. But
I usually do.
If next offseason we're sitting here at the combine and they're going to lose Dotson, they need a guard. Well, they'll get a guard.
But I'd rather spend a 3rd-round pick this year on it.
Yeah.
Have that guy spend the year either in the starting lineup or getting coached by Pat Meyer.
Yeah. What wouldn't break my
him
heart
ready to go
is to draft an offensive lineman with position versatility.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
Either a tackle guard or a guard center, because they'll find their way.
Give me the next Ramon Foster, a guy who was an offensive tackle in college. Maybe he could play some right tackle for you, but he's going to be a hell of a guard.
I always think like the Strelzik types. Like he's a 6 man.
Yeah.
Period. You almost end a sentence.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Center.
2.5.
Okay.
We just talked up Cole, but
we did.
If you see an upgrade, upgrade.
Yeah.
And
a lot of the centers can also play guard.
Yeah.
You get the Dermontti Dawson situation where, again, you still have Mike Webster there. You bring Dawson in, you play him at left guard for a season, and then he takes over the next year for.
Yeah. You'll find a place for him. Yeah. Agreed.
I'm going to go with 3 there. I think to me, I want to add an interior lineman more than I want to add a tackle.
I think we disagree on that, but I'd love that.
In terms of the premium, in terms of the pick that I use on them, I want to add both of those positions. But I'm more willing to look at the interior guy early, because I think he's going to be
get in the field quicker.
Yeah, he's going to be a potential starter for me. Whereas the tackle, I'm willing to take a guy as a project there.
Okay. Yeah, I think a project at tackle's great.
Yeah.
And he could also factor in as a 6 lineman, goal line package.
You get him you get his feet wet
active
while he's
on
doing
game
that.
day.
Yeah.
Right. Swing tackles, he right, left, whatever. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Defensive line. We're going to break this up. Defensive.
Let's do nose and end.
Okay.
I know that they're not really a 3-4 anymore, but there are 2 different versions.
All right. Nose tackle.
4.
Faux.
I want Adams to be the 2 there.
I think I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to say that 4 as well.
Yeah. And this
I think
nose,
it's a high priority spot for them.
I don't want this nose to be, runs a 5.8 and
he better be able to rush the passer a little bit.
Yeah.
He better
he
give
has
me
to
some
be the
juice.
right guy.
Yeah. He better give me something that maybe he's my 3rd guy, my first guy off the bench in my nickel.
Right. He plays 20 snaps a game, or 30 snaps a game.
He can't just be a nose that's standing on the sideline when we're playing the Bengals.
And only shows up on goal line packages or whatever. Right. Yeah. So it has to kind of be the right one.
But so this is one of the things that Omar talked about on the podium today that I thought was interesting. How each of the other 3 teams in the division, you have to basically play a different way against each one of those teams.
Right. I mean, the Bengals live in 11.
Yeah.
The Ravens are very unique.
Yeah. And then with the Browns, they've got that running game, but now they've added, Watson, what he can do.
Well, the running quarterback aspect.
With the running quarterback aspect of it.
3 very different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so
the Ravens have theirs. Who knows?
Right. So I don't know, a nose tackle might play 35 snaps against
the Ravens.
Or the Browns,
right?
He's going to play 10 snaps against the Bengals.
He's never going to be in the game against the Bengals. Right. That's why he needs to have a little bit of pass rush.
Or if you're playing the Chiefs, how much is he going to play?
Right. Like if you look at the Steelers snap counts in the second half, I mean, there was that stretch where they played, I don't forget the order, Atlanta, Carolina. They played like 4 of the heaviest run teams in the league, and their noses played like
and they were
40 snaps a game.
They're dressing an extra defensive lineman for those games.
Right.
And
they're playing a 6-man fronts, So that happens, but it's rarer.
Yeah. Although, with the way the league is going right now, maybe it's not as rare as
there could be people trending more towards heavier personnel.
Defensive, I'm going to say defensive end because
that's the Hayward types.
Yeah, the Hayward types.
3. It'd be nice. I think you could live another year with what you have, but it's not.
I'm going 4.5.
Well, see, I'm thinking that they're Ogunjobi or somebody will be signed by then. But
even if that's the case, I want to put the next Cam next to Cam right now. I want the next Cam learning from Cam.
Yeah, but I don't need it. There's a difference between wanting and needing from my ranks.
I can want that and need it both at the same time because
that
guy's going to play.
He's going to play. I would love to add one, and it would be a high priority. But if I left this draft without a D end and I had Ogunjobi signed, we just saw that. I can live with it.
Yeah.
But then next year it's probably going to be my number 1 need.
Well, now you just said that guard might be your number 1 need if you're not taking a guard.
You can find a guard, a second-round guard all day long. Those guys play, right?
All right. Linebacker.
How about edge guy?
Edge, yeah, edge.
3.
Okay.
You don't need a starter, so I can't give it a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But you better find somebody.
I'm going to go 2.5. I think that's a late second day, early third day pick.
And that could be week number 2 of free agency, Justin Houston, or whatever. Too.
Somebody that's played in the league and has done some stuff.
Yeah.
Is willing to take it.
But they need to add one.
Yeah.
By the way, Jameer Jones was re-signed, right?
They did re-sign Jameer Jones.
That's a sneaky move, too. I
like that.
I like him as a 4 a lot. And he was a core special teamer. He played like every snap of special team.
Absolutely. Linebacker.
8. 5 and 5.
The conundrum
I don't know what to do with Jack.
Is that I don't know that I want to take him in the first round.
I'm not taking one in the first round. I'm signing one, developing Robinson and something else, hopefully better than Spillane.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm doing with Jack.
Yeah.
If Jack's around, then it's a 5 and not an 8.
Yeah.
But it's still the biggest
But you're not
need
ready
on the
to
team.
say hit the road, Jack.
I might be. If my doctors say he got the
Don't
Jack,
you come back, no more.
Right. I don't know what to
I'm not ready.
I'm
not ready to do that. I think some of the medical stuff last year was. I mean, it's a hamstring.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know. They're recurring.
Happens.
That's what I would need to know. And where we stand in the world, we're not going to know that answer.
Right.
But I think the finances will tell us.
So you said an 8.
A 5.
A 5. You're going to give that a 5.
It's the biggest need on the team to me.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's one you're going to fill in the draft.
No. But it's the biggest need on the team. Yeah.
Cornerback.
4.
I'm going to say 5 there.
Okay. I mean, I guess as it's currently constructed with Sutton not under contract, that's a 5.
Yeah. And I also look at Levi Wallace's one more year under contract. I look at, if they assuming that they pick up James Pierre's option.
See, I think Pierre has value.
He's got 1 year left. He's basically a 1-year deal. Mm-hmm. So you need to add a young stud to that.
If Sutton were signed tonight, would it still be a 4 or greater for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to add more
really
guys to that room.
Because it's a great cornerback draft, too.
Okay. Yeah, definitely in a great cornerback draft where there's 20 guys that are going to come in and be NFL players.
I want one of them.
I want to add one of those guys.
I don't want to be one of the 12 teams that didn't get one.
Yeah.
I want to be one of them.
Yeah. And then safety.
Well, right this second, it has to be a 5 or a 4.5.
Yeah, because you've only
got one.
Yeah.
I mean, I guarantee that changes by draft day.
I'm with you there.
I don't think safety will be a need on draft day.
And the interesting part about it, okay, so we don't say you're talking corners, safety. We should even look at like nickelback.
Nickel, right.
because I want to add somebody that plays in the slot. I want to add nickel.
Right, and that might be Sutton.
That would be a high priority for me. The cornerback that I draft should be my nickel corner this year.
Yeah.
Or the safety that I draft should be my nickel this year. Somehow that's got to work for me.
Right. Or Sutton's there, and I had an outside corner, or what? I mean, there's a jigsaw puzzle there.
Even if let's say you get Christian Gonzalez. Well, he's not going to be your slot guy.
No, but Sutton
will bump inside, even if Gonzalez isn't your day one starter.
Right.
He's going to come in on passing downs, and Sutton's going to bump inside.
See, that's why I think signing Sutton ASAP is of highest priority.
Yeah.
Because then I don't have to get this type of corner.
Right.
You know, I have not so many options.
Gives
now.
you that flexibility.
Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Millette will be back.
Millette is, yeah.
I mean, that's not ideal.
Yeah.
But I can win games with him.
You can win with him. You know what he's capable of.
He may not make the team if you draft two of them, but
right.
He is going to be back, and he's has
value there.
He has value.
Right. Absolutely.
Punter.
Specialist? No. I'm not as down on Presley Harvin.
I'm not either.
Looking at some of the stats on Presley Harvin this year, when you start digging into they were second in the league in punt return yardage against this year.
Mm-hmm. And that could be on the punter as well at times if you're not getting the hang time or whatever.
But they were number 2. They give up 5.7 yards per return this year because he got the angling stuff down. I thought directionally kicking, he was good this year. It was the average up there with what you look at and say, well, he's one of the top punters in the league. No, but I think with what they're asking him to do, I think he did that.
Yeah. That being said, when as the draft is ending, those area scouts, one of them's calling the best punter available for me, and I'm going to pay. I might outbid the Saints for him.
And he comes to camp and he's competition, but I'm not using a draft pick.
No, I'm not using a draft pick. Right. I guess he exercises draft pick
because he's
obviously not
Harvin's cheap.
Harvin's cheap, right? And I think he will be the punter.
I do too.
But I would bring in a cheap competitor just to see how it goes.
And I thought his consistency got much better this year.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see the cold weather struggles that you saw.
Agreed.
In his rookie year. All week long, you can listen to live coverage from the NFL Scouting Combine on Steelers Nation Radio. We'll be live on Radio Row. We are live on Radio Row from 9 to 4 all week long. If you can't catch us live, you can find us on our daily audio programming from Indianapolis, including programs in their entirety and interview carve-outs on demand in the studios, in the audio section. I should get that closer. I can't read it. In the audio section of the Steelers official mobile app. That's all week long. SNR at the NFL Scouting Combine. I promise you tomorrow we'll have more guests on the show.
Yeah, we'll start lining them up.
Things will start heating up here in terms
of that. All day long.
But he is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio. We'll be back with more right after this. We are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson. And, Matt, we just went through our Steeler positions in the previous segment there. So by the looks of this, we both agree that basically defense is where the team should look at. You're a little more.
I mean, I'm more into a tackle than you are.
You're a little more into a tackle than I am.
A little more into a tight end than you are.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, especially with their upcoming free agents. I mean, when the draft rolls around, I might feel differently if they have three guys signed by then, which I expect they will. But you've been saying this a lot, and it's hard to deny. They got to find some youth on there, some long-term.
Well, and here's the other reason why they need to do that. I know we all talk about Kenny Pickett's your offense was cheap this year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not going to be that way forever.
No.
You better start adding some young, cheaper pieces on defense to balance that out when the offense pay them and not have all the money tied up in the defensive side of the ball.
And you're not going to have a cheapo line forever either.
Right.
I mean, lines are expensive. But it's going to keep going.
Like 2 years from now, it could be in a perfect balance.
And hopefully that's when everything hits.
Yeah.
You still have some cap money to go fill a hole, and you win the Super Bowl.
That's how it ideally works.
Right. I mean, that's how you're trying
to
do it.
But it only works that way for one team.
Right. Both could peak at the same time, though, in some degree. You know what I mean?
Winning a Super Bowl really is like a perfect storm.
Right. Oh, yeah. And some luck has to be involved and all that stuff, too. My hunch is some people will criticize the Steelers if it's a heavy defensive draft. They're just trying to win games 13-10 and old school. And
those critics
defensive
are always going to be out there.
Right.
They don't see the big picture.
No, you're right. The offense looks like it's going forward. You don't want the defense to go back in the meantime.
I mean, so for those people, I would look at it and say, okay, then tell me what offensive pieces you're going to add
that will help you now.
I mean, so you're sitting there at 17 and Bijan Robinson is there.
Right.
Well, you're not going to take him.
You're not going to take him, no.
Or
your choice of tight ends, probably not going to happen there. Or your choice of receivers, probably not going to happen there. Tackle's the only spot I could see as a first-round pick.
Right.
On offense.
Yeah, and it would have to be the right guy. I mean, are you going to take Pete Skoronski just to take him?
I would.
But he's probably not a tackle.
Yeah, but how about your Dotson conversation?
Well, that's different. That's different. But I don't think he can. Not that he can't play tackle.
Right.
But he's not big enough to ride the ride.
But he would be a starter for you for a while.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. He's intriguing. I have mixed feelings about him. I think I would take him knowing what I know right now. But I want to see his arm length in 2 days or whatever, too.
Yeah, he's a T-Rex.
Right, that's the problem. But he blocks people at the Big Ten really well.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. But I mean, we're looking at defensive line. Edge, we weren't quite as – Edge was really the only one where we were both a little lower on.
Mm-hmm. It's a good edge class, though, so maybe that third-round pick's an edge. And
maybe
you're right.
One of those seventh-round picks is an edge that you had a fourth-round grade on.
Maybe.
Because
or you trade it back and you have a fourth or fifth that you don't have now. And
that's the intriguing thing about this. That pick at 32, you're gonna get 10 offers.
Oh yeah.
On the Friday or the second day of the draft.
Yeah, over a 24-hour period or whatever.
And one of them's going to intrigue you.
Several probably will. And you could get people bidding against each other. It's like, if you throw in a fourth next year, you got a deal.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. So if I can add, not only picks in this year's draft, but maybe one next year. Okay, now I'm listening. Now I'm listening. Now I'm intrigued.
Oh no doubt about it.
And the beauty of it is you can now trade those comp picks.
Right.
So there's some
those
teams out there
that have the thirds and right.
The extra picks that are coming in.
I mean, there's teams like the Niners that are aggressive that their first pick's like 99th or 100th.
Yeah.
But they can now trade them if they wanted to give you something a lot.
I'm not interested.
I'm not going that far, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There'll be teams that'll use those comp picks to move up.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of it. The Steelers not expected to get a comp pick this year.
I'd be shocked.
Yeah. Now maybe next year that changes because I don't think you're going to be quite as big a buyer this year as you were last year.
Probably not.
On the open market.
I mean, I think they'll spend on a linebacker, keep some of their own.
But if you
that might be about it.
If you spend on, say, a Bobby Wagner, well, it doesn't cost you anything in your comp formula.
That's a good point, too. I mean, I'd be very interested in these guys that are getting released the last month or so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's gold.
Absolutely. It's gold, baby. Gold, Jerry, gold.
Bobby Wagner looked good in black and gold. Coaching guys up. Yeah. Maybe him and Mark Robinson in a third-round pick. Learn from that guy.
I'd be in on
that.
that.
Go in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Yep.
This week, we're giving Steelers Nation Radio even more ways to consume SNR Drive content at the annual Scouting Combine. You can listen to us live here each day from 2 to 4 p.m. on SNR. You can also get all of our programming, as usual, on demand, where you get all of your favorite podcasts. But for this week, you can also watch and listen to our shows here on Radio Row each night during the Combine on the Steelers YouTube channel. That's live on SNR through our podcast and on the Steelers YouTube page. Check it out. That's going to do it for our show today, Matt. We will be back tomorrow. We've got
one day in the books.
Already lining up some guests, so you're going to want to come back tomorrow for that, starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. with one, Wesley Euler. He will be flying solo on here. He can't wait for that. He's right over here. And
I'll join him at 10, though. He'll be all right.
Matt will be rolling in at 10. We got live wall-to-wall coverage here from the NFL Scouting Combine. For my partner, Matt Williamson, I am Dale Lolley. We want to thank everybody involved here keeping us on the air, for the most part. And we want to thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio.